I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have the prayer and the pledge by Councilmember Sherry Guidry.
Spirit of the living God, we thank you for many blessings on today. If it had not been for you on our side this year, where would we be? Heavenly Father, let your presence rest upon us. Lord, we believe that your godly wisdom has entered into the room this evening, so that we may conduct this meeting with decency and order. O Heavenly Father, maintain and guide the leaders present in this room from every level of government present. And the Almighty Father, we ask, Lord, that you would direct our path while graciously imparting your strength and your power. Touch every person with your love and your grace. Lord, we all need you like never before in this hour, and help us all as leaders to always hear and yield to your voice, and with your grace to delegate ethical decisions on behalf of your precious people within our city borders. For your glory, in Jesus' mighty name, we ask all these things, and if you agree, say amen. 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 I pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Dan Doyle.
Here.
Councilmember Natalie Lopez. Present. Councilmember Marlon Lewis.
Here.
Councilmember David Broussard.
Here.
Councilmember Deidre Ledbetter. Here. Councilmember Sherry Guidry.
present.
Councilmember Dustin Swear.
Here. Thank you. Move on to public comment. We have no public comment cards. At this time, I'll ask you to silence your cell phones, and we will move on to item number 2.
Acceptance of the minutes of the September 18, 2018 meeting as published on September 30th, 2018.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Lewis, second by Councilwoman Ledbetter. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, please vote your machines. Thank y'all. Item 3.
Persons to address the council. First up, we have Senator Fred Mills, Representatives Terry Landry and Taylor Barra, to give us an update on legislative matters. And we're going to call Mr. Taylor Barra first.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having us. And we have a special presentation we'll make before we leave. But on behalf of our delegation, and I have Representative Landry and Senator Mills here with us this afternoon. First off, on behalf of our delegation, congratulations to the city. A lot of great work that has been done, particularly with the new administration. Congratulations on your police department, and I know a lot of work went into that, and we certainly appreciate your efforts in getting that off the ground and off to a smooth start. As we continue to partner with the city going forward, and of course we'll be approaching a capital outlay deadline on November 1st, so I'll remind you, if you have applications in process, we want to make sure we get those in time. And also compliment you on an effort you embarked on several years ago as it relates to road swap, and with the Department of Transportation and Development, and the fruits of that are pretty obvious on Main Street and St. Peter Street. So thank you for going down that path, because that has been a much recognized improvement in the city, and I know you've received the compliments as well as many of us. So we're here to be your partner. What has happened over the last 4 or 5 legislative sessions was primarily budget related. Now that we have put the majority of that to bed for a few years anyway, with the lowering of a sales tax, which was good news, and still being able to balance the budget as a result of it, we continue to have a lot of work to do, but from a revenue perspective, at least we have stabilized that for our state going forward. There is an opportunity that we will finish the June 30th year. Those books are not completely closed yet. We await the identification of possibly a surplus that we would have ended June 30th with. Good news to a degree. but then we'll have a long, heated debate on what we do with the surplus money. So that'll be the next exercise we'll go through. But that's good news in the end. Hopefully, economy contributed to some of that. A lot of it has to do with some of the changes we made in the tax code, particularly on the corporate side. So we will see if that's the beginning of a trend. We hope it is, which is only good news for our municipalities and jurisdictions going forward. You will see a great deal of information being shared, and most of it was all over the board as it relates to internet sales tax collection. If you have followed it or attempted to follow it, we are certainly, our Department of Revenue is working toward that effort. As all of you know, we have 64 different parishes that collect taxes 64 different ways plus some. So we don't have a centralized sales tax collection system in Louisiana, which really would make internet sales tax collection a lot more streamlined. Our Department of Revenue has put a basis in place to collect it going forward. Their anticipation is that would begin sometime in January. There are some states that began their collection yesterday on October 1st, but they have a single tax collector, and we're able to put that together a little bit quicker. We do have, good news is, and the locals will share in that, some companies voluntarily reporting their internet sales tax collections currently. Department of Revenue shared with me on Friday that they will share about $800,000 with local municipalities from companies that have already begun to self-report. Voluntarily, not mandated in Louisiana yet, but it will be shortly. Once we get the infrastructure in place, we may come back in the spring session and fine-tune some of the legislation around it. But the good news is, I think both at the state level and at the local level, there will be some goodness. To estimate what the numbers are is difficult to do at this point. We really don't know, what the adherence will be to the Supreme Court decision as to how companies react to collecting it. Those that have in-store locations in Louisiana are already doing it for the most part. They are obligated to do it if they have an in-store location. It'll be the internet catalogs and those types that don't have a physical presence in Louisiana that will be the trick, and we'll see how that reporting gets done. So some good news economically. I think we have begun to turn the corner. I can't quite say that we've turned the corner yet, but I think as we continue to work through the budget at the state level, hopefully we are on a new path going forward, and hopefully that only improves our relationships with our entities going forward. So we will anxiously, if you have the capital outlay requests that come in on November 1st, we'll happily meet with you guys, get the priorities, see where we need to go next, and certainly carry that through the session when we begin in April. We don't begin till April 8th, which is good news for me at this point. So I'd like to ask Senator Mills, and I don't know if Representative Landry wanted to say a few words, but we do have a presentation, a resolution that we adopted during the regular session this year, and I want to let Senator Mills share that with you. So Senator Mills, would you join me up here, please?
Thank you, and Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and all the members, thank you all for having us here, and all the audience here. And if any of the Broussard families here, I'd like them to join us also, if you could. And I have for you a resolution that we passed during the legislative session. And I don't know about y'all, but I think we just don't get a chance to tell each other thank you enough. And each and every one of you sitting here, you've run for office to make the place just a better place to be and a safer place. And Mr. Broussard, for years and years, I know he has on speed dial all the DOTD. Wouldn't y'all say? And he has everybody on DOTD on speed dial. So we have a resolution we passed, and we'd like to read it into the record, and we'd like to just tell him thank you on behalf of the legislature. And I'm going to try and read it exactly as written. I used to read in church, and the priest said, I can't live the gospel. So we're going to try and read this exactly as is. So, Mr. Broussard, take a deep breath and enjoy this, because you've worked hard for this. Resolution number 221 in the regular session 2018. This is a resolution to commend David Broussard for his passion and tireless dedication to ensuring government officials improve streets, intersections, and railroad crossings in New Iberia, Louisiana. Whereas David Broussard is a member of the New Iberia City Council representing District 3. And whereas for approximately 20 years, he has spearheaded a railroad safety project for the city, and whereas Councilman Broussard has been working with the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development to secure new arms and lights at railroad crossings in New Iberia, Louisiana, in order to make travel within the city safer. And whereas his chief concern is the safety of the people of New Iberia, and we thank you for that. And whereas as a result of his persistence and determination, 5 railroad crossings in downtown New Iberia, located at Week Street, Julia Street, Iberia Street, Providence Street, and French Street, are on their way of getting gates and lights. And whereas Councilman Broussard and the administration for the city of New Iberia work to restore funding from the federal government to make the improvements a reality, and whereas his commitment to the people of New Iberia, to their safety as they navigate the roadways in New Iberia, is a testament to the type of dedicated public servant he has been since his election to the city council. And whereas David Broussard merits sincere congratulations for his service as a city councilman for District 3 in New Iberia, and for his contribution to the state of Louisiana, and is therefore resolved that the Senate and the House of Representatives of the Louisiana legislation does commend Mr. David Broussard for his passion and tireless dedication to ensuring government officials improve streets, intersections, and railroad crossings in New Iberia, and does hereby recognize and record for his prosperity of his public service to the citizens in New Iberia and to the state of Louisiana. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be transmitted to Mr. Broussard. And we didn't want to put it by mail, we wanted to hand it to you directly. Thank you very much for your service.
I want to thank my family, mostly my wife Margie, for putting up with me for 48 years, and to go to Baton Rouge so many times to get this kind of money for the city of New Iberia. Try it. You'll see how hard it is. Yes, I know a lot of the state capital people up there. And I want to thank Mr. Landry, Barras, Mr. Barras, Mr. Mills. Thank you all for running. Thank you.
Yeah, if I just may add, the speaker did a great job. I worked for this guy, so when your boss speaks, you just sit back and listen. But a couple of things I want to mention. We have a very important election coming up pretty soon. There's some constitutional amendments on it that are very critical and important to our society. One in particular, I want to mention is the unanimous jury verdict. I don't know where you stand on the issue, but I'd ask you to study it, and I think we need to really take a look at it and not be an outlier and come mainstream with the rest of the country as it relates to that. But all those constitutional amendments, as confusing as they are, they're very critical and important. So I just encourage you to talk to your constituents and encourage them to get out and vote and be a part of the process. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
One last note, thank you all again for what you do. And Mr. Broussard, when he first went to Baton Rouge, had a lot of hair, so look at him.
Can't thank y'all enough for coming, taking time out of your busy schedule. We know how hard all of you work. So we really thank y'all for coming. I think this is the first time that ever happened. So thank you and congratulations to Mr. Broussard.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk? Madam Clerk, 3B.
Miss Mimi Methvin, candidate for Congress. He's changing the batteries on the mic.
I can talk real loud.
Okay.
Mayor DeCourt, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for having me. Just to speak a few minutes about my candidacy. My name is Mimi Methvin. I am a Democrat running for Congress in the 3rd District. And the election, the open primary, is November 6th. There are 7 candidates. I appreciate the time you gave me to introduce myself. When I asked about this council, just to get a little more background on you, this is what I was told. This council discuss issues thoroughly. They treat each other respectfully. They work toward consensus, and they get behind group discussion. And these qualities, thank you. these are the kind of qualities that I would like to bring to Washington to work for the 3rd District. I'm a native of Alexandria. I have a law degree from Georgetown University. I worked on Capitol Hill for Congressman Gillis Long for 3 years while I was in law school. I became a federal prosecutor in Louisiana when I returned to the state, and then I served for 26 years as a United States Magistrate Judge in Lafayette, and left that job after being reappointed 3 times so that I could open a private mediation business and help pay the college bills to get my son through college. I have helped raise 3 stepchildren and 2 kids of my own, so now I live alone. So my life is very different. I am drawn to run in this race because we are in historic times, not only for our democracy, but because Louisiana is on the front lines of a global challenge with our coastal challenges. And I am committed to fight for full federal partnership for our coastal master plan. Currently, it is the minimum is $50 billion that is supposed to come from various sources. It's not fully funded. I'm going to advocate for $50 billion from the federal government to help us. Everywhere that I've gone in this district, I talk to councils and governing authorities that are struggling with issues of flooding, with drainage, for the towns that are on the coast for tidal flooding. And so this is a critical issue, I think, for our state. So thank you for the time to introduce myself. I am not taking corporate money or PAC money because I'm committed to going to Washington to be an independent voice and represent the constituents of this district. So thank you very much for the time and for allowing me to introduce myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
We have a representative from the Iberia Chamber of Commerce with a presentation for the gumbo cook-off, which is scheduled for October 13th and 14th.
Yes. Just wanted to come tonight to thank you all for allowing us to hold this activity downtown New Iberia. And as I was leaving the office, I was making a list of all the departments that help with us so I could single them out. And it was more that help than don't. So thank you all. We appreciate you very much. As Maxine said, it's October 13th and 14th this year. We've got 75 teams cooking. Our out-of-town teams, our out-of-state teams are from Texas, Mississippi, and Florida this year. So we're looking forward to having them. I spoke with a woman yesterday from Mobile who told me that she'd had her hotel reservation since July, and she was so excited to be here. So it's always good to hear that. As I started with the chamber, I understood this event as important to the chamber because it is our biggest fundraiser for the chamber. But what I've learned over the years is that it's an incredibly important regional tourism event, and it has about almost a $2 million economic impact on our community. So it's important to all of us that it be a good event. And also would like to thank the over 200 volunteers that volunteered during that weekend to make sure that it comes off without a hitch. Some fresh things with the event this year is we are going to have what we are affectionately calling a Gumbotron on Main Street, which is a huge screen. It's 10 feet by 16 feet, and we will shoot interviews from the crowd up on the big screen, and we have a plan for that. Also, we'll honor our sponsors in that way. We have cooking demonstrations on Saturday from 4 to 6, and Chef Cody Cormier from Rouse's, Chef Alex Patu, and Chef Blake Payne from Cypress Bayou will be with us, and there'll also be wine pairings for all you wine drinkers. So that's a ticketed event. You can get it through the Chamber's website. And then thirdly, on Sunday from 9 to 2, we're going to have All Aboard headquarters is going to have their kiddie train with us. So I think that's going to be a nice thing for the little ones. So I hope that you can all come out. We're praying for dry, cool weather, so join me in that effort. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, item 4.
Proclamation recognizing Emma Wakefield Paye being accepted by Phoebe Hayes, President of the Iberia African American Historical Society.
All right, I'll go ahead and read it. Whereas Dr. Emma Wakefield Palais was born in the city of New Iberia, Louisiana, on November 21st, 1868, to State Senator Samuel and Mrs. Amelia Valentine Wakefield, both natives of New Iberia, where she went on to study medicine at the Medical Department of New Orleans University, where she graduated with honors in 1897. She was the sole female of 68 applications, including 4 blacks, who sat for the licensure with the State Board of Medical Examiners in 1897. Special mention was made of her exceptional performance on the examination by the board. Whereas she is the first African American female to practice medicine in the state of Louisiana, having been awarded a medical license by the Louisiana Board of Medical Examiners on April 15, 1897. And whereas she is the first African American female to practice medicine in New Orleans, Louisiana, having opened a medical practice at 1233 North Villeray and Esplanade in 1898. And whereas an official state historical marker commemorating the trailblazing accomplishments of Dr. Emma Wakefield Palais will be placed in her hometown of New Iberia, Louisiana on November the 3rd, 2018. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Freddie DeCourt, by virtue of the authority invested in me by the laws of the city of New Iberia, do hereby proclaim November the 3rd, 2018 as Dr. Emma Wakefield Palais Day in New Iberia, Louisiana. Oh, no. We can't thank you enough for all the work you put into this. And when we met one day at my office, I don't know, about a year ago, and you told me the story and said we need to do this, everybody got behind it. So I've got a copy for you, and if you got a few words for us.
I just want to say
Great.
thank you to the council, to the mayor, to the citizens of New Iberia who have embraced this journey that we've been on for a little over a year.
Yes.
You're right, Mayor. And at one point, no one knew who this lady was. I called different archives around the country, even in California and in Massachusetts, and they would Google who was the first black woman to become a practicing MD in Louisiana, and they had another lady's name that was associated with that honor. So first, we've corrected the historical record. And second, we have made sure that no one will ever forget this lady's accomplishments. Our New Iberia native, who was born 1 month after Iberia Parish was founded. So this is her sesquicentennial anniversary of her birth, as well as the sesquicentennial anniversary of Iberia Parish's founding. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Madam Clerk, item 5.
Resolutions. Resolution authorizing use of the city facilities on October 13th and 14th, 2018 to the Greater Iberia Chamber of Commerce for the World Championship Gumbo Cook-Off.
Do I have a motion? Motion. Mayor Pro Tem was first with the motion, and second, I'm not sure who was second. Okay, Councilman Lewis. Do we have any discussion? We better vote yes. Vote your machines. Thank you all very much. Madam Clerk, 5B.
Resolution ordering a public hearing to be set on October 16, 2018 at the New Iberia City Council chambers at 5:30 p.m. for the purpose of public comment on the proposed 2018-2019 City of New Iberia operating budget.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Councilman Swear and a second by Councilwoman Ledbetter. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, please vote your machines. Thank y'all. 5C.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute an agreement with Coda, Slavin and Company LLC, certified public accountants, for the audit of the city's financial statements along with agreed upon procedures.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Guidry. Second by Councilwoman Lopez. Any discussion?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
is normally we do it more than a year at a time? Because it says 2020.
Sometimes we have in the past. We've done it to where they have gotten up to the 2 years, 23 months.
Yeah, I was just wondering.
Yeah. They had actually brought me one for 3 years, but we can't do any more than less than 2.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Great, thank you. Please vote your machines. 5D.
Resolution terminating the contract entered into between the City of New Iberia and M. Matt Durant on April 19, 2018 for the Jefferson Terrace Drainage Improvements Project.
Do I have a motion? Motion by Councilwoman Ledbetter, a second by Councilwoman Guidry, and I'd like to take a second just to explain this. This is our drainage project on Jefferson Terrace. Our only way to get and drain to Bayou Teche is to go under the railroad. That became an issue that the insurance that were required by the railroad was a couple of $100,000 a year, forever. We realized we could not afford that. We began to talk to the railroad. This held up our contractor, who was the low bid, that we couldn't proceed. In the meantime, we found a 30-inch pipe and thought that might work, thanks to the efforts of Mr. Leroy. However, if we spent $1.5 or $6 million and left 12 inches of water on the road, we weren't doing ourselves any good. That pipe was at the wrong elevation. It was existing, so we could have got around the railroad's requirements, but it just wouldn't work. After we lost a couple of months trying to figure that out, we've been negotiating with the railroad to try to get less of a insurance requirement. Maxine got involved and spent many months with them, tried her heart out. Fred Mills stepped in, and it does look, when we get to the next item, we're finally moving. But what's happened, we've taken so many months to do this that the contractor needs his bonding back. He needs to have that bonding ability, and his bond was tied up. So he asked us to please get out of the contract so that he could pursue some other work in a more timely fashion. So that's why I'm asking y'all to give me the authority. You gave me the authority to sign it, to give me the authority to get out of it so that we can move on to correct our issues, and our city attorney has his hand up.
Yeah, the item says terminate the contract, but we're really authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement to terminate the contract, because our deal is that we pay none of their costs, and they have to absorb their own, we absorb our own. So it's authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement to terminate the contract.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if the contractor would not want to get rid of the contract and keep it, I mean, the reason we doing it because he's asking to get out of the contract?
Correct.
Not because
Correct.
we told him that we're doing a different avenue towards
No.
the project?
He has patiently been waiting, and we've tried to work things out, but it's just taking too long.
Yeah, and we've had no notice to proceed. We have not pursued this thing.
We could.
The contract was actually signed and then shelved while we did the rest of this. So I think we need to.
So now we have a totally new project, or when it comes out to bid again, or we can use the existing engineering for what we
Oh, all of
did?
that's still good, yes.
Okay.
The project is back, thank God, because see, it furnishes a 54-inch pipe, and we
Right.
really need that capacity. So the plans stay just like they are. Engineers ready to go again. What we'll end up doing is re-advertising and rebidding the project.
But everyone else knows the price of the project.
Well, then, I've been a contractor for 36 years. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
We'll get a better price.
In our favor.
And
Yeah.
sometimes it does work in our favor. There's
Yeah.
been times that it doesn't. But
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
whatever the market will bear.
Thank you.
Yes, Councilman Sweet.
It's gonna change, being that we have to go with a bigger pipe anyway into the trash.
Well, no, we're back to the original pipe. We're back to where the contract documents required. Because now, once you give me authority to go with the next item, the railroad is going to work with us in a better fashion.
So being that he's terminating this contract, he's gonna rebid the project, is he gonna rebid that project?
That's up to him. It's his choice, and we will certainly let him know. And he's a good contractor. I wish he would, but that'll be his choice.
Okay. That's it.
Anybody else? All good? Please vote your machines. Thank you. Madam Clerk, 5E.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute a pipeline licensing agreement with BNSF Railway for the Jefferson Terrace Drainage Improvements Project.
Motion by Councilwoman Ledbetter. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Guidry. Any further discussion? It's kind of the same item, so. Hearing none, please vote your machines. Thank you. Let's get some drainage going. All right, 5F.
Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract for legal services with John Young et al. Relating to legal services for litigation of a civil action for damages against opioid manufacturers and distributors on the terms shown on the attached or terms more favorable to the city.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilwoman Guidry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Lewis. Do we have any discussion?
Other than you can explain what this is about.
This is about, we actually have the law firm who is going to represent us. If they want to come up, I can tell you that this is a lawsuit that if you don't participate, you don't get anything. And if you remember, there's been some other government entities that chose not to participate in some class action suits like this, and they felt left out after. So we didn't want to take that chance. We can call them up. You can ask them questions if you'd like, but that's what this is about. Yes, Jeff?
Yeah, this is a contingency fee contract, which
Correct.
means we pay only if we recover, and we pay a percentage of the recovery. And we were approached by this group, you see the names up there, and Joe Burke locally, and we were approached by this group, and they met with the mayor and with the Mayor Pro Tem and with me. And my understanding is that the parish is also going to enter into an agreement with the same group on the same terms.
Yes.
And they represent a number of different parishes and some municipalities. And it's something that I think we can't not do, because if there's a claim, we want to make it. And I think these guys are offering us similar terms to those that have been reviewed by the parish and local parishes and other public bodies. So I think they're here to talk about this.
Come on up.
You know, when I was a young lawyer, when I was addressing the judge, I was winning the case, and they said, shut up and sit down. I'm afraid to start talking because it looks like everything's going well. But I would like to tell y'all what our team is about. And we've put together a highly experienced, highly skilled team of Louisiana lawyers to sue the opioid manufacturers and distributors. I don't know if any of y'all had seen the 60 Minutes program this past Sunday, but this is a crisis. It has bipartisan political support. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name's John Young. I'm here with Mike Stagg and Joe Burke, who are part of our team. But I've been a practicing attorney for 30 years. But in addition to that, and I think it's important for y'all to know this, I've been an assistant district attorney in Jefferson Parish. I was 2 terms as councilman at large and council chairman for Jefferson Parish, and 2 terms as parish president, and sat on the police jury executive board for 8 years. So I've sat in your chair, and I've had to make the same decisions you make as you sit in your chair. I can tell you that the biggest risk here, as the mayor appropriately said, is not to do anything. There's bipartisan political support in the state of Louisiana and nationally. Republicans and Democrats are united on this. Even in our state, even though the governor and the AG disagree on almost everything, they did agree that the opioid manufacturers and distributors had to be sued in this case. They fought over who was going to control it. It was worked out where the AG controls the litigation. We're approved by the AG's office. As Mr. Simon said, every contract that we've signed, we originally signed, the first lawsuit that was filed in the state of Louisiana in federal court was on behalf of Bossier Parish, which we represent. Actually, our fee was higher, and then we reduced it. So every municipality, every parish has the same, and it's a sliding scale down. So you don't pay anything. It costs you nothing. You know, you don't pay us anything. We take all the risk. If we hire experts, which we have, forensic economic experts, if we don't recover anything on your behalf, you don't owe us any money. That's on our back. Obviously, if we recover, we get a percentage, which is approved by the Attorney General. It's a sliding scale down, 25% for the first $10 million. If it goes between 10 and 20 million, it goes down to 20%, and above 20 million, it goes down to 15%. So it's a sliding scale down. Normally on these type of cases, we would charge 40%, but it's 25%, it goes down from there. I can tell you that we represent, and it's not to brag or boast, but we represent over a quarter of the state parish governments. We also represent several municipalities. We represent every parish in the 16 JDC and several municipalities, Berwick, Franklin, Morgan City, and Patterson. We're looking forward to hopefully representing you as the city of New Iberia and your constituents. Mike, what we have on our team is Mike is an MDL attorney. This is not a class action per se, but it's an MDL, which stands for multi-district litigation. So every case that gets filed gets sucked up into the Northern District of Ohio. Mike has been experienced in MDL. We have another attorney on our team who has MDL experience. That comes into play. And then we have 2 attorneys on our team that are very qualified and experienced in RICO, the Racketeer Influenced Corrupt Organization Act. which would allow us to receive, if we prove those elements, which we believe we can, triple damages. I don't know, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Pro Tem, Madam Clerk, members of the council, and Jeff, I don't know if we have a presentation. I don't know if you want me to go through it or not. I can answer any questions. I don't know how much time you want to spend. I have a presentation that I can get done in 10 minutes, but I don't know. What is your pleasure? I don't want to overstay my welcome. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah.
Make a motion that we look at the presentation.
I
Okay.
second it.
All right, great.
Good.
So I've
Everybody
gone.
unanimous on that? Let it rip.
So, I'll go through it quickly. I'm not going to. So this opioid crisis goes back to the late 1990s. When I was a young assistant district attorney prosecuting DWIs, people would come in and would blow a buckshot, which is zeros. They were clearly impaired because they were taking prescription drugs, oxycodone, Oxycontin. What happened is the pharmaceutical companies promoted these drugs as safe and effective for chronic pain, treatment of chronic pain. Opioids have a use in our society. It's for people in acute pain, post-surgery, and it's for people dying of cancer, but not for people who get in automobile accidents and they give them an inordinate number of pills. On that 60 Minutes show, they have a doctor in prison for prescribing 1,000 pills a day to a pregnant lady. Obviously, there's been many abuses. Since 1999, the number of opioid overdoses has quadrupled. That's in direct correlation to the number of prescriptions, because since the 1990s, the number of prescriptions have quadrupled. The CDC says it's one of the top 5 health threats in the United States. There's been a presidential declaration of emergency on opioids. Here's an interesting stat. 4 out of 5 new heroin users started out on opioid prescription medication because, as I'll tell you, as the slides will indicate later, the doctors and the pharmacists were duped initially. They were told that these were safe and effective by the manufacturers and distributors. And by the way, I know Senator Mills must have left, but our team is not advocating suing local doctors or local pharmacists because they were misled by the manufacturers and distributors. Every day, approximately 115 Americans lose their lives to opioid overdose. These are some of the parishes we represent. These are the manufacturing distributors. Purdue, you can see OxyContin, Indo, Percocet, Janssen, which is a division of Johnson & Johnson, Duragesic, Insys, Subsys, Mallinckrodt. Mallinckrodt was the company that was profiled on 60 Minutes this past weekend. Oxycodone, fentanyl. Fentanyl is one of the most potent opioids, and it cuts across, and I'm not going to ask for anybody to say this, but probably all of y'all know somebody who has had an opioid addiction or problem, or someone, a relative or a friend who's died of an opioid overdose. It knows no economic boundaries, no socioeconomic boundaries. Both Prince, the entertainer, and Tom Petty both died of fentanyl overdose. Depromed, Vicodin, so these are very familiar drugs. And then we have the distributed defendants. McKesson's another one that's been profiled on 60 Minutes, sending more pills into a small town in Denver, in Colorado, than they had people. And they wanted to bring criminal charges against them. They interviewed ex-DEA officials, ex-DOJ officials. They had so much power with their lobbyists in D.C., they backed them off. They fined them $100 million instead of bringing criminal charges. A lot of money, but when you're making $150 million a month, it's a slap on the wrist. Here is a chart that shows overdoses from opioids, any opioid, and you can see heroin's a distant second. 1 in 4 people who take opioids get addicted to opioids, and 1,000 people a day are seen in emergency departments throughout the United States for opioid-related overdoses. Let's talk about Louisiana. Unfortunately, again, we're at the top of a bad list. We're 5th nationally. We have more prescriptions than people. We have 122 prescriptions in the state of Louisiana per 100 people. We have 39% higher opioid prescription claim average compared to the national average. Urban areas obviously have a bigger a problem with opioids because there's more people, but rural areas are more taxed on it because they don't have the resources to deal with it. Opioid deaths across Louisiana outnumbered homicides for the first time in 2016. I know it's safe here in New Iberia, but where I come from, in a large urban area, homicides are always on the top of people's mind in terms of public safety, and we have more opioid overdose deaths than homicides in the state of Louisiana since 2016. Here is just a chart that shows the deep purple states are the ones with the highest incidence of opioid abuse and addiction and overdoses. And of course, unfortunately, Louisiana is in the deep purple states. What is our claim against the manufacturers and distributors? They had fraudulent marketing campaigns where they hired doctors, and this was also brought out in the 60 Minutes segment Sunday night, where they hired doctors, put them on the payroll, and they went around to other doctors promoting the safe use of opioids for chronic pain. In fact, they had one doctor that they had a clip on that he did that years ago, and he had came on in this segment and admitted he was wrong, and that what he was telling other doctors was wrong, and that he had lied. They also set up so-called independent organizations like under the name of the American Pain Society, which seems to be independent to promote the safe use of opioids, but they're actually bankrolled by the manufacturers and distributors, so they're not independent organizations at all, even though they sound like that. They target vulnerable populations. This is very insidious. Our elderly and our veterans, they target for opioids. And they target, as I said, doctors to present the drug. I'm not going to go through the details of this, but this is the label on the OxyContin label that we feel we're going to be able to prove liability against that manufacturer. Same thing with this Porter and Jick letter. Profits obviously driving the crisis. Opioid sales generated approximately $11 billion in revenue for the drug companies. They spent over $250 million in 2011 alone to promote opioid use. It's the most prescribed class of drugs in the United States. There's 289 million prescriptions in the United States. There's 323 million people. So that's a very, very high percentage of people in the United States on opioids. In that 60-minute segment Sunday night, they had 500 million pills in the state of Florida at one time with 20 million people. So you do the math and see how many pills per person were flooding the state of Florida. Dealing with the cost, your claim and the claims of the parish governments is, as you know, you fund as a city government social services, police departments, EMS. Those are increased costs that you have because of opioids. So while the manufacturers and distributors are making these $1 billion of profits, they're saddling local, state, and the federal government with the cost, and ultimately the taxpayers with the cost of dealing with the crisis. Again, impact on public health, impact on law enforcement, judicial system and courts, the medical examiner. This is the kind of money these guys make. $192 billion in revenue from McKesson, Cardinal 122. And why the distributors? Because the distributors are in a unique position. They, under federal law, are supposed to advise the DEA when they have an inordinate number of requests for pills. So when they get, like that case I told you about in Colorado, when they get more order of pills and they have people in that community, they're supposed to alert the DEA. It's a red flag, just like SAR for a bank, a suspicious account. So what happens is every pill that is prescribed can be tracked by computer. They have a national system called ARCOS. Here in Louisiana, we have the PMP. And so the judge in this case, who's very aggressive and a former prosecutor, has ordered the DEA to produce the records for all their manufacturers and distributors that produce 95% of the drugs in each state for the United States of America. So they failed to provide a red flag when they had inordinate numbers of pills going into certain communities. Again, I already talked about this. We're not suing local doctors and pharmacists. Although, just one little quick story, anecdotal story. In Bossier, when we signed up Bossier, again, this underscores why it crosses socioeconomic lines. They had an OBGYN in Bossier Parish who had the largest practice. He got addicted to opioids. His whole staff got addicted to opioids, and now he's in federal prison. Again, I talked about this bipartisan support, political momentum. And then this is the last slide, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. What are we looking for on your behalf? In three broad brushstrokes, we're looking for three things. We're looking for an injunction to prevent these opioid manufacturers and distributors from continuing in their fraudulent marketing campaigns. We're looking, two, to recover damages on your behalf, hopefully going back many years, to make you whole for the costs you've incurred on behalf of your taxpayers, your citizens, to deal with the crisis that's been caused by the opioids manufacturers and distributors, flooding of the market with opioids, and fraudulently marketing them as safe for chronic pain. And then three, as a former prosecutor, what appeals to me, similar to the tobacco litigation, creating a cessation fund to provide money to provide treatment for people who have become addicted to opioids going forward, people in your community or your constituents, citizens of New Iberia, have become addicted to either opioids and or heroin because they were ultimately originally prescribed opioids and became addicted, were cut off by the doctors when they became aware of the crisis, and now are addicted to heroin and other drugs. So with that, I'll just close by, again, thanking you for your time. I hope I didn't take too much time. I wanted to give you that information. And we would be very honored to represent you, as we are representing many other parish governments and municipalities throughout the state. There's no guarantee that there will be any major recovery, but we think there is definitely a claim. We wouldn't be taking the risk of doing this, and I think the biggest risk is not doing anything. So thank you for your time and attention. If there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer them.
Council, any questions? Hearing none, thank you.
Glad you're doing this for,
Thank you.
and it's a good thing to see a positive output, that you're trying to stop
Right.
the bad thing going on around the town.
Right. I've spent most of my years as a maritime defense attorney, but I got interested in this because I think what they've done is absolutely insidious. And I had a friend that was assistant DA. His dad was a federal judge. He got in an automobile accident. He got addicted to opioids, and he overdosed. And we left a copy of the approved resolution for the AG and the contract with you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council. So thank you very much again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, no comments, please vote your machines. Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, item 6.
Approval of municipal government civil service salary structure where it reflects only the increase in the range widths without affecting the minimum rates.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Swear and a second by Councilwoman Ledbetter. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, please vote your machines. Thank y'all. Madam Clerk, 6B.
Approval of a 2% general increase for municipal classified employees to become effective November 1st, 2018, which is the minimum required as is written in the municipal civil service rules.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Guidry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Broussard. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, please vote your machines. Thank y'all. And on behalf of all of our employees, I'm sure they thank you too. Item 7.
A public hearing on the introduction of an ordinance approving and authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute a cooperative endeavor agreement between the state of Louisiana and city of New Iberia for the Bayou Teche Museum expansion in George Wright Reed Park, FPNC project number 50-ML1-17-01.
Thank you. I need a motion to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing.
All right, we have a motion. I think Mr. Broussard was first, so Mr. Broussard, and a second by Councilwoman Guidry. Do we have any public comment on this issue? Hearing none, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Councilwoman Guidry, I need a second. Councilman Broussard. Great, thank y'all. We don't vote enough.
Nope.
Nope, didn't think so. Great, we move on to item 8.
To adopt this ordinance approving and authorizing the mayor to enter into and execute a cooperative endeavor agreement between the state of Louisiana and city of New Iberia for the Bayou Teche Museum expansion in George Wright Reed Park, FPNC project number 50-ML1-17-01.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Guidry and a second by Councilman Broussard. Do we have any discussion on this side? No discussion? Great, please vote your machines. Great, we head into a great project. We've got some people here in the audience who've been working on this tirelessly. We thank all of you, and it's all good. We moving on. Great. Madam Clerk, item 9.
Introduction of ordinance and budget amendments. Introduction of ordinances and to set for public hearings on October 16, 2018. Introduction of an ordinance altering the boundaries of the New Iberia Highway 14 Economic Development District Number 1 and providing for other matters in connection with the foregoing.
Do I have a motion? Motion by the Mayor Pro Tem Dahl. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Swear. Do we have any questions on this? Any comments?
This is an introduction to the ordinance, so this is not an actual.
Correct.
This
First
is the
step.
one with the motels.
Yes. This is the one that we have to a couple of hotels. Our state now lets you register to vote when you renew your license. And a couple of people put that they live at our hotels. Because of that, you can't have residences in a TIF district. So what we're doing is 2 hotels. We're going to go around those hotels, keep moving, get our TIF district passed, and then we'll come back later with the help of our city attorney and all kind of other people and prove that those people don't live at those 2 different hotels so that we might be able to put them back into our TIF district. But if we don't do it this way, we're losing time waiting. So that's why we're doing this. It's an extra step. It pushes 1 meeting back, but I mean, it's just part of the game. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
The question is, what hotels?
They must get a
There's a big
special
difference
rate.
between one and the other.
It's
I mean, you don't have to say. I mean, I'm not.
yeah. I didn't know if I wanted to.
No, but I'm just.
They're not the largest hotels. Let's just put it like that.
That's a good way to
Okay.
put it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, they're great accommodations, but
Doesn't they need some proof that they live there?
they do. But I think it's a process. From what we
Oh.
heard, from talking to Jason Eggers, talking to Jeff, it's going to take a little while to prove that. So that's why we
Can
figured.
we do everything but the room they in?
Hey, now that's pretty slick, but I don't think so. That I like that. Any further discussion? No, I ask you to please vote your machines. I like that. Thank you. Madam Clerk, 9B.
An introduction of budget amendment ordinance number 2017-2018-13, amending the ordinance levying certain taxes, appropriating the funds necessary to defray the expenses and liabilities of the city of New Iberia for the year 2017-2018, to carry over funding from fiscal year 2017, to amend the budget for change in projections.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Councilwoman Guidry. Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Broussard. We have Kevin here if you're going to have any questions, and this is because we have to end our budget that every department has to be within 5% of their projections. So this is his last adjustment really before the year end to get all of that within the 5%.
And so there'll be no more amendments to our draft that we had, or?
This is for this current year's budget to
Oh,
end
okay.
it.
The
This
fiscal
is the
year.
17-18.
Fiscal year.
Yes, yes.
And it's for
Kevin?
every fund, according to the statutes, we are supposed to be within 5% over or under each fund, actuals versus budget.
Okay.
And that's what I'm trying to do.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any discussion? Please vote your machines. Thank you, Kevin. We have the utmost confidence in you. Madam Clerk, item 10.
Items for discussion, Sherry Guidry with an update on the Hopkins Street Economic Development District and introduction of the Board of Commissioners.
Councilman
Thank you,
Giddens?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to update the council and also the public about, I want to call it a redeveloped, but we're going to call it the Hopkins Street Economic Development District is what it's called. And basically, the quick operating agreement for this, real short and simple, is that the Hopkins Street Economic Development District, which is better known as the district, was created by the Louisiana State Legislature in 1995, Act RS 33-135-31, and the act grants the district's governing board of commissioners of all rights, privileges, immunities granted to, and it is a political subdivision for economic development purposes, including but not limited to the power of taxation, the powers to incur debt, and issue revenue and general obligation bonds, certificates, and indebtedness, and also bonds and certificates, anticipation of notes, and refunding bonds. The right to own, rent, lease, buy, sell or resell property, to enter into contracts, require, issue license, borrow money, levy taxes, and pledge its revenues, rents, and leases as security for such loans, subject to limitations hereinafter provided. Now, the next thing I wanted to go over was the actual goals and objectives for this particular entity, and the district has been created for the primary objective and purpose of promoting and encouraging the development and revitalization of economical opportunities in the Uptown District, stimulating the economy through renewed commerce and utilization and development of natural and human resources of the district by providing job opportunities. Also, to the Hopkins Street Economic Development District goals and objectives from our last meeting, that we also want to add is that we're here and we've developed this to improve the quality of life, to enter into a private and public partnerships for different projects we want to take on. We want to be able to hopefully tackle blighted properties within the district. Public safety is always of importance, and encourage entrepreneurship type spirit and nurture in our existing businesses within the district as well. Consequently, there are many needs in this district. Therefore, we are shifting and refocusing our vision by hopefully tackling one project at a time. Also, we want to attract new and quality businesses such as family restaurants and other goods and services that will benefit our entire town as a whole. And I believe we have a very good group of stakeholders that are committed to working on the development of this district. And at the same time, I want to introduce the appointed commissioners that have answered the clarion call. And the following are Pastor Zachary Mitchell, Ms. Deborah Joseph, Mr. Marcus Bryant, Panat Zanamine, City Councilman Marlon Lewis of District 2, City Councilwoman Sherry Guidry of District 5, which is myself, Ms. Marva Spencer. The advisory to the board is Mr. Stanley Small, Mr. Joseph Lockwood, the Honorable Charles Porter, Honorable Judge Charles Porter, and State Representative Terry Landry of D96. And lastly, I want to encourage everyone to visit our newly created social media page, and all you have to do is type in Hopkins Street Economic Development District to keep up with our meetings and also the latest news, projects, and updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Good luck. Government good. I wish us luck on that in the town to promote it and to make it look good. That's our entrance to coming in from outside. So we thank you for everything you do and everybody else on your program. And I hope y'all keep us informed where we can help y'all.
Absolutely, that's my job.
Great, thank you. Yes, sir.
No, I think Councilwoman Guidry did a great job explaining to the public and to us the duties and the mission of the Hopkins Street Economic Development. We started this it actually was started in 1993 with some of the old soldiers, as I would like to call them, Bill Russell and all of those people. And they did their best with what they had. And then it was reignited again through Western Business Association, which I was a member of. Ms. Bro was there. Mayor Carter was there. You were there, Freddie.
Yep.
You were there, Freddie. And then it just kind of curtailed into Hopkins Street revitalization, in which Hopkins Street revitalization turned into Hopkins Street Economic Development. So it's been around a while. The hardest thing was to get commitment from community, get community buy-in. And if I could say anything to the public is, if you want your community to grow, you have to buy into it. You have to become a real stakeholder. And when I hear stakes, I think about time and money. So you need to bring some time and some money in order to make this thing possible in the Western community.
Thank you. Thank you all. And city government, of course, will be a partner, and we'll work together to improve not only that area, but our entire city. Thank you all for your efforts and for, volunteering to be part of this. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Now we go to councilman remarks. Councilwoman Lopez, I'll start on your end.
I would just like to thank the board and the volunteers for the Sugar Festival for the great job they did. I myself went to the fair at 7 o'clock on Sunday night when it closed at 8. And the vice president, Christy Blanchard, was still there after having put out work all weekend. She was still there walking around, working, greeting people. Jenny over at Community First Bank, who is one of my favorites, was still there counting the last batch of money. I watched our own NIPD drive her off from the premises to go deposit it. So I just would like to thank everyone who put forth those efforts. There's a lot that goes into that festival, and I know they could use a lot more help because I've watched it hands-on for about 5 years now. But that's all I have.
Thank you.
And it was in my district, and it worked very well.
Thank you.
The fair.
Yeah.
Let me be clear so nobody has asked me.
Councilman Lewis.
Amen.
Yeah, man. First of all, I want to honor all the survivors of breast cancer for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Also, I want to acknowledge that there are men that also can catch breast cancer. A lot of people don't realize that. So men also, I don't know what the age is. Get checked, get tested for it. That's one thing. The other thing is to piggyback on Ms. Lopez. We had a great time this weekend in the West End. More importantly, I think it coexisted with what happened on Main Street, and most people left Main Street and came to Hopkins Street and celebrated. The mayor, you was there on Saturday. I was there. We had a great turnout. The police department was awesome. They were dynamic. They were interactive. Their presence was, amazing. Looking forward to doing it again. I don't think that the times conflicted with what was happening on Main Street at all. So those two things can coexist. The other thing is on next Monday, October the 8th at 6 o'clock in the West End Park, Martin Luther King Center, we'll be doing a town hall meeting, and we're requesting and asking the police department to give us a 90-day report on some of the successes that we've had, some of the challenges we've had, and to talk about some of the things that we have coming up, like citizens review boards, and all of the things that we can interject that, because they've been doing such a great job with footwork, I'm assuming we haven't had a whole lot of time to do some of those other things, but they are coming, and we're just asking the people to come out. We're going to have an update on the elections. We're not going to stay too long on that because it's a town hall meeting concerning our police department and celebrating them and thanking the citizens for helping us pass that tax on last year. So again, next Monday night, which is October 8th at 6 o'clock, Martin Luther King Center, better known as West End Park, we'll be doing a town hall meeting. Appreciate if y'all come out and support us and see what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Broussard.
Mr. Mayor.
The award-winning Mr. Broussard.
Mr. Mayor. We got to work on some more projects. I'm asking the people here, please, Mr. Mayor, we're going to put a fine on those no dumping signs. That last one we put on St. Mary Street, they got 15 more tires. We cleaned it up, put a brand new sign. We need to put on there the amount that we're going to fine them. I'm pleading to the public. We have a hard time getting rid of tires. And they're dumping them in the front of empty lots where gardens will not pick up anything in front of an empty lot.
Right.
And we're having a hard time for the city or gardens or anybody to pick up tires. So it stays there. So please, any of these tire dealers, put you on notice. Don't dump your tires in the city or the parish. Do something with them. Because it is very nasty, very ugly. And it takes us weeks, if not months, to get rid of these tires. So anybody around these dump sites, keep your eyes open. Mr. Mayor, we need to put a fine amount on the bottom of these dump sites. and maybe that'll scare them a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to echo my council members about this weekend. You know, Sugarcane Festival takes such a long time to put together, but it plays on weather. If you have bad weather, then you don't have a good festival. This year, luckily, mostly Friday night and Saturday was pretty good. Mostly Saturday night got some rain. But I want to thank the chief and the police department and everybody with the city mayor. They picked up everything so quick, cleaned up everything so quick, picked up the barricades. I mean, it really was a citywide event that and I think it went smoothly. And I think it's something that I think we take for granted for being here, but people come from far away to come experience the Sugarcane Festival and everything else that goes along with it. So I want to thank you for the effort and thank you for the city for being a partner in it.
Thank you. Deidre?
I just want to say to my constituents in the Jefferson Terrace area, as of tonight, we're one step closer to phase 1 of the drainage project.
Yes, we are.
I want to publicly thank Senator Mills for helping us move that project along. And relief is on the way. Everything takes time, but at least we're one step closer to the fruition of that project. So I know you're gonna be really, really happy, because any help is better than what we have. Drainage in that area is really bad, so look forward to some improvements in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say congratulations to the Sugarcane Festival Association, the NIPD, all the volunteers, the Brown Sugar Festival. I live somewhere in between all of this, so the music was just non-stop. So, I mean, I could just put my lounge chair in the yard and just listen from Betty Wright all the way down to Zydeco. I mean, and also to gospel music as well. So it was a plethora of music, and like Councilman Lewis said, it can coexist. It's really a great thing to see the community come together. And lastly, I have a beautiful young lady that is present here. She is somewhat shy, and she does not want to ask, but her mom is not that shy. So, Westgate High School band Po' Boy Sale, and its date is October the 5th, guys. The time is 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. The location is Westgate Bus Ramp. The cost is $7. And they do deliver for $10, 10 or more orders. And please support the Westgate Band or any other band in this city. They travel hard. Westgate Band, I know for a fact, because I'm always on the run, they do a lot of Battle of the Bands, and they represent us very well. It takes money to travel, it takes money to feed them, and they put their all into it. So before y'all leave, if y'all can kindly, see Miss Genesis before y'all leave, and I would appreciate it. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, got a couple of, one announcement. We have a Bayou Test Neighborhood Watch meeting coming up next Monday. I believe that's October 6th at 6 o'clock. So anyone in my district in that area is more than happy to attend. I want to thank the delegation that came earlier, came report to us. Like you said, it's the first time since we've sat here that they came forward. And they've always provided us with great information of what's going on throughout the state. In the same breath, Mr. Broussard, congratulations on your award, resolution that you, proclamation of your, also, I want to say this, I want to thank all the departments that put into the Sugarcane Festival and what they've done. That's everything from Jimmy's department to PD. It was peaceful. Like I talked to the mayor the other day. I mean, after the parade was done, public works was lined up, ready to roll. It was like nothing was ever there. It's about 5 o'clock, everything was out. So it was good. So I appreciate the whole city and the citizens for coming out, supporting it, and making it as peaceful as they can. That's it for tonight. Thank you.
Your Bayou Test meeting, where is that going to be held?
It's at North Lewis Elementary.
Okay,
at 6 p.m.
Okay, wait, North Lewis Elementary at 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm. October 6th.
October
Monday.
the 6th. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to, again, thank all of our city employees. I mean, I saw every department have something to do with the festival. I mean, it's a 4-day event. It touches every aspect of our city. Can't thank them enough. It was well organized, well thought out, and well executed. I also really want to thank our citizens. People came out. There was a little bit of inclement weather. They still supported it. They came out. And, you know, being the mayor of the whole town and getting to bebop around all over, all I saw was people enjoying themselves. Was a good time, was a good festival. You know, it was a good weekend to be the mayor. So I want to thank everyone for coming out and supporting, you know, our hometown festival. It's the 77th year. It's a long-standing tradition, and it's just good to see that it's growing, that people are contributing, both those involved as well as all of the citizens are coming out and just making it something bigger and better, and look out for next year. Thank you all. With that, I have 2 other things. The special meeting of the Highway 14 Economic Development District that was tonight will be moved to after the next meeting, so that'll happen after our next council meeting on October the 16th. Of course, our next council meeting is October the 16th. And check all those properties. I think Maxine said we got a couple other little checks in. So Civic Source is working. That's it. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Thank y'all.